we were talking about graphing lines, right? So we have something like this. And I forgot to bring graph paper, so I'm going to have to do it by hand. What would you do? How would you graph this? And I don't want any, remember we talked about the fact that the coordinates have to be integers, so don't make any coordinates fractions.
The first one would be x equals 0.
All right, so you could do a t-table. And in this section, that's the way they introduced was in terms of a t-table. So if x is 0, this becomes y equals negative 2/3 times 0 plus 3. So that's 0 plus 3, which is 3.
Then the rest of them have to be divisible by the denominator.
Right.
3.
So the other values of x you're going to use are going to be numbers that are divisible by the denominator here. So like 3, negative 3, 6, negative 6, 9, negative 9, and so on. So let's just use 3 and negative 3, see what happens. So if x is 3, I get y equals negative 2/3 times 3 plus 3, correct? And what we got to do is kind of figure out this part here. What's negative 2/3 times 3?
Negative 6/3.
Negative 6/3, which is
Negative 2.
negative 2. Any questions on that? So negative 2 plus 3 is what number?
1.
1. So when x is 3, y is 1. Now remember, to graph a line, you just need 2 points, but you really should put 3 because you got to make sure that all these points lie in the same line. So one of these could have been an error, and you would have graphed the wrong line. So if x is negative 3, I get y equals negative 2/3 times a negative 3 plus 3, correct? So we got to figure out what this is. Negative 2/3 times negative 3 over 1. You got to remember, a negative times a negative is a positive. So this is 6/3, which is 2.
Actually, 2 plus 3 is 5.
Oh yeah, I forgot 2 plus, so that's 2, and then 2 plus 3 is what? 5. Okay? All right, now when I graph this, now in your worksheet you can have a grid paper there, a grid. If I'm do this by freehand, but those 3 points need to be collinear, meaning that they all lie on the same line. I think it's just 1L, C-O, I think it's 2L or 1L, I can't even spell this anymore. Collinear. 1L? Okay, collinear. All right, so 0, 3, where's 0, 3 located?
You stay on the
3 up from the origin.
Okay, so it'll be on the y-axis, right? Now on the worksheet, if it says label, and I think it does, you have to label these points. So you would say that would be 0, 3. That's what we mean by labeling. So we plot it and then we label. 3, 1 is here. And then negative 3, 5 is here. And then they're supposed to lie in the same line. Now remember, I did this by hand, so it's not scaled very well. So that's your graph. Okay? All right, to make sure you draw the line, I mean the arrows. Draw the arrows at the ends. Okay, so that's what we talked about last class period. Okay, now, we saw last class period that the lines that we graphed, they either went down like this, which means they have what kind of slope? Negative slope, or they rose, which means they have positive slope. Now, we hadn't talked about slope in year. You did it last semester, and we won't talk about slope in year. You can get back to slope in college algebra. But remember last semester, y'all talked about slope. Okay. All right. Now, let's look at this. So notice that when we graphed this, you saw that you had 2 variables here. You had a y and an x. You'll see that, right? Okay. Now, when I graph this line, what am I graphing?
Points.
Yeah, there's,
Coordinates.
yeah, true. They're points. I'm graphing, plotting coordinates. But what I want you to notice was that when I plugged in 0 and 3, x is 0, y is 3, then that means that when I plug this in, 3 is equal to negative 2 times 0 plus 3, right? So those are solutions. So these numbers, these coordinates make the equation true. How many solutions are there?
Infinite
Infinite number. Don't say 3. We plotted 3 of them. We found 3 of them, but when you graph, all these are what?
Solution.
Solutions. All these are solutions. So how many solutions are there? An infinite number. So remember when we talked about that, we brought back those equations we did earlier. And how many, for the most part, how many solutions were in each of those equations?
The ones that we did last.
Yeah, the last class
At
period.
least 3.
No.
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Where? We had this equation here. How many solutions was there? 1.
Oh, yes.
Okay, there was 1 solution.
Of course.
How many variables did you see? Just 1. That was 1 solution. So most of those were just 1 solution. Now you had one that was infinite number, no solution. Remember that? But for the most part, each of those had how many solutions? 1. How many variables did you see in each one? Just 1. Here, there are 2 variables, an x and a y. For the most part, you're going to have how many solutions? An infinite number. So we graph them. We didn't graph these because there's how many solutions? Just 1. When there's an infinite number, we graph the solutions. You cannot list them all. Here I can list it. What is my solution? Negative 1. Here I can't list all these. I can't put an infinite number of tables here. So we graph it. Those represent the solutions. Same thing here now. Now remember, when you had 2 variables, either the line falls or the line will rise. Here, how many variables do you see?
1.
Just 1.
But you know that the
Just
other-
1 variable. Okay, now you want to graph this because this right here actually has an infinite number of solutions as well.
X equals 0.
So when you look at this in terms of the t-table, and you see that x is missing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can actually put it in if you want to. I want you to notice this. You can write this as y equals 0 times x plus 3. Do y'all agree that that's the same thing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So in terms of the t-table, what this means is that y always has to equal what? 3. Y always is going to equal 3. So in this column, this is always going to be a what?
3.
A 3. And I can plug any number in for x. So if x is, watch what happens. If x is 1, what's 0 times 1 plus 3? What's 0 times 1?
0.
And 0 plus 3 is what?
3.
3. If x is 2, I got y equals 0 times 2 plus 3. What's 0 times 2?
0.
0 plus 3 is
3.
3. So no matter what x is, y always equals what?
3.
3. So if I graph this, these points, 1, 3 is here, 2, 3 is here. Notice what kind of line is this? It's a horizontal line. Right, so y equals 3 is a horizontal line. Okay? So there's only one variable, like you see here, either it's horizontal or it's vertical. If it's y equal a number, and it's easy to remember because in terms of the t-table, that says y always equals what? 3. So y, these points, if you look at all these points right here, what is my y coordinate in all these points? 3. That's what that says. No matter what x is, y always equals 3. So if you look at x equal, let's say, negative 2, x equal negative 2, same idea. So if you want to put a y, you can. You would say x equals 0 times y minus 2. You see that? So, but this, what this says though is that x is always going to equal what number? Negative 2. So all down this column, you're going to have negative 2, no matter what y is. So if y is 1, watch what happens. If y is 1, x is going to equal 0 times 1 minus 2. What's 0 times 1? 0 minus 2 is a negative 2. That's what we have. X equals what? Negative 2. If y is 2, I get x equals 0 times 2 minus 2. What's 0 times 2?
0.
And 0 minus 2 is negative 2. So again, x is always equal to what? Negative 2. No matter what y is. So if you graph x equal negative 2, so negative 2, 1's here, negative 2, 2 is here, so notice you get a vertical line. Okay? All right, so any questions on horizontal and vertical lines? So if there's only one variable, it's either horizontal or it's vertical. If it's y equal, it's horizontal. If it's x equal, it's vertical. But remember the t-table. So in your column, x equal -2, so -2 is going to be all along down that x column. Over here, that was y, so all along the y column, you're going to have 3. Because it says y always equals 3. Is there any questions on this? All right, so then, let's suppose you had this. Okay, graph y minus 2x equal 3. Y minus 2x equal 3. What might you want to do first to graph this?
You gotta get the y box.
Okay, so if you notice when we graphed the others, y was always by itself, right? In the ones that we did, this one here, and the previous one, last class period, y was by itself. Now here, there's no y, so that's why this was a vertical line. But here there are two variables, so when you graph this, it's either going to be rising or it's going to be falling. Is this going to be vertical, horizontal? No. It would be horizontal if what letter was missing? X. It would be vertical if what letter was missing? Y. All right. So you may want to get y by itself. So I'm going to bring this -2x over. So when I do this, it's going to be y equals, and now what would be on the other side? Remember how to do that?
Yeah,
Yes, I remember. You're going to add 2x to both sides, right?
2x plus 3.
And when you combine like terms, these 2x's go away, and you get y equals 2x plus 3. All right, so now use the t-table.
X equals 3.
So give me a number for x. 0? Okay, you can use 2, 0, 2. Let's do -1 also. So if x is 0, I get y equals 2 times 0 plus 3, which is
Y plus 2.
Y equals 3.
y equals 3. If x is 2, I get y equals
Plus
2 times 2 plus 3, right? So that's 4 plus 3, which is 7. If y is -1, x is -1, I get y equals 2 times x, and x is -1
7. So it's 5.
plus 3. So that's -2 plus 3, which is
Negative or positive.
Positive 1.
positive 1. All right. And so then you just plot those points. So 0, 3 is here. 2, 7. Let's say it's here. And -1, 1 is here. And so you get this. All right. So any questions on graphing lines? Okay. So that was section 2. What section was this? 2.3? No, I'm sorry. That was 3.2. So that was section 3.2. So the graphing lines, all this was section 3.2. So we started last class period. Remember we graphed the lines last class period? So we just finished it. All it really needed to talk about was the vertical and horizontal. Okay? So when you look at the worksheet, I think you got part A. So here's part B, just to show you what that is. So you want to graph this using a t-table. So what you may want to do, number one, is get y by itself. Here, y is already by itself. It's a fraction, though. So you're going to use numbers that are divisible by what? 4. There are problems on the back page. So notice y equal, x equal. Okay? All right, now, so this is going to be 3.3, so section 3.3. Okay, so this is where you're going to graph lines using intercepts.
Scroll down a little bit.
So you graph lines using intercepts. Okay, so just kind of remember this. If you have a line, let's say it does this, where the graph crosses the y-axis here, see how where the graph crosses the y-axis? That's called the y-intercept. So where the graph crosses the y-axis, it's called the y-intercept. Where the graph crosses the x-axis, that's called the x-intercept. All right, and then when you think about this, let's say you have this and this. What is in this particular case, what is the y-intercept here?
0, 3,
0,3. What is the x-intercept here?
4, -4.
yeah, -4, 0.
Right. So make sure you put 0 in the right place. So this is, on the y-axis, x is 0. And on the x-axis, what's 0? Y. So no matter where you are on the x-axis, what is y always going to be?
0.
0. No matter where you are on the y-axis, what is x always going to be? 0. All right. So what you learned before was this: to find the y-intercept. To find the y-intercept, you're going to let x equal 0, because no matter where you are on the y-axis, no matter where you are, which of these coordinates is always 0? X. All these are zeros. So if you want to find the y-intercept, you're going to let x equal 0. To find the x-intercept, you're going to let y equal 0. Because no matter where you are on the x-axis, either here, 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 no matter where you are, which coordinate is always 0?
The second one.
Y.
Wow.
Okay? So to find the x-intercept, you're going to let y equal 0. Okay? So then the problems in this section ask you, for the most part, they ask you to graph using intercepts. So all right, so let's look at 14, and that's on page 203. Okay, so you have x minus y equal -4. X minus y equal -4. Now the directions said graph this using intercepts. You got to make sure you're using intercepts. So do them in steps, which you would normally do like last semester. You would say to find the x-intercept, we're going to let what?
Y equals 0.
Y equals 0. So wherever I see the y, I'm going to plug in what?
X minus 0.
I'm going to plug in 0.
4.
So I get x minus 0 equal -4. And what's x minus 0? What's x minus 0?
-4.
No. What's x minus 0 the same as? X. And so x equals -4. So you found the x-intercept. So what's the x-intercept? -4. Now there are also times, remember, when they ask you to write this as an ordered pair. So if it says write this as an ordered pair,
-4,
remember ordered pair means an x and a y. So ordered pair means an x and a y. So in this case, what is the ordered pair? -4, 0. Because remember, y is what? What we let y equal? 0. So it has to be 0 for y. And x is -4. So you found the x-intercept. So the x-intercept's -4, 0. To find the y-intercept, you're going to let x equals 0. So if x is 0, now you got to be careful this time because you do have a subtraction. if x is 0, wherever you see the x, you're going to plug in 0. So I get 0 minus y equals -4. That's what you have at this point. But 0 subtract y is the same thing as what?
Y equals 4.
No, you didn't answer the question. 0 subtract y is the same thing as what? Negative y, right? Or -1y. Okay? That's what you get. But remember, you got to get what by itself.
You gotta get a Y without.
You got to get y by itself,
Yeah.
which means you want the coefficient of y to be what number? 1. What is the coefficient of y right now?
-1.
-1. And so when you look at this, this is really -1 times y, correct? And so right now, multiplying y by -1, what's the opposite of multiplying by -1?
Divide by -1.
Divide by -1. And so -1 divided by -1 is 1. 1 times y is
Y equals
y.
4.
So y is +4. So there's your y-intercept. So in terms of an ordered pair,
0, 4.
it was 0, 4. So that's your y-intercept. And all you do now, remember, always follow directions. So if it says use intercepts, make sure you're using intercepts only. Don't use the t-table. Use intercepts. So -4, 0 is here. So there's my x-intercept.
Then 0, 4.
0, 4 is here. And then there's your graph. All right, now if it said label, remember label means to put those coordinates. That's all you do. All right, let's look at number 18. Number 18. Okay, 18 you have x minus what?
X minus 2y is equal to -8.
All right, so that's 18. And again, they want you to use intercepts.
Okay.
So just write out, say to find the x-intercept,
Y equals
you're going to let y equal 0. So in place of y, you're going to substitute 0. So I get x minus 2 times y, what's y?
0.
Equal -8. And remember, 2 times 0 is 0, right? So this is really x minus 0, which is just what?
X
X
equals -8.
equals -8. So x equals -8. Y'all agree? So there's your x-intercept. Now, if it didn't say,
Ordered pair.
yeah. So on the blank, if it says x-intercept on the blank, if it didn't say use an ordered pair, then just put -8. If it said ordered pair, then you have to say what?
-8, 0.
-8 comma 0. Okay, so just remember that. All right, so there's the x-intercept. So that's where the graph's going to cross the x-axis. To find the y-intercept, you're going to let x equals 0. And so in place of x, you're going to plug in 0. So I get 0 subtract 2y equal -8. Now, what's 0 subtract 2y the same as?
-2y.
-2y. -2y. But what must I get by itself?
The
Y. So right now, multiplied by -2, the coefficient of y is -2. So to get y by itself, to get 1y,
divide both
I've got to divide both sides by -2.
+4.
Right, +4. So if it didn't mention anything about writing as an ordered pair, then what would you put in this blank?
4.
4. If it said ordered pair,
0, 4.
0, 4. Okay? And then you just plot those 2 points. So -8, 0. is here. And then 0, 4 is here. And just draw your line. All right, I kind of missed it. But there's your graph. Don't forget the arrows. Okay? And if it says label the points. So 0, 4, negative 8, 0. And question 18. All right, number 20. Number 20.
2x plus 3y is equal to 6.
All right. Okay, to find x-intercept, you're going to let
Y equals 0.
y go 0. So in place of y, now basically you don't have to write 2x plus 3 times 0. But if y is 0, then that term 3y is going to be what?
0.
0. And then 2x plus 0 is just what?
Just 2x.
2x. So you could go directly and just say 2x equals 6, right? Y'all agree?
Mm-hmm.
And then how to get x by itself.
Divide both sides by 2.
And so I found the
X equals
x-intercept.
30.
The x-intercept is 3. Now they asked you to write as an ordered pair, you would say
Comma 0.
3, 0. All right, and then to find the y-intercept, you're going to let
X equals 0.
x equals 0. So if x is 0, that means that this term right here goes away, correct? Because 2 times 0 is what?
0.
So what equation is left?
3y equals 6.
And how to get y by itself?
Divide both sides by 3.
And so 3 divided by 3 is 1. 1 times y is y. So my y-intercept is 2, correct? As an ordered pair.
0, comma 2.
All right. And then you just plot those 2 points and you're done. So 3, 0, 0, 2, and then you just draw your line. Okay?
I had to make sure I didn't forget my little arrows on paper today. Almost forgot them when I was doing it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, don't forget the arrows.
They'll make you unhappy if you don't put your
You
arrows.
won't be happy. All right? Now, okay.
Check.
Now, on one of the problems in my math lab, you'll see something that looks like this. And let's do 34. 34.
X is equal to negative y.
Okay, so it will say, graph this using intercept, just like we just did. All right, but you notice something. All right, so to find the x-intercept, you're going to let y equals 0. So if y is 0, then negative 0 is what? 0. So x equal what?
0.
0. Y'all agree?
Mm-hmm.
No? Who
Yes.
said no? I heard no. Anyone say no?
You can't really have a negative 0, so it is
So-
negative 0.
So you get x equal negative 0, right? Well, what's negative? What now? I'm sorry? Because that's negative y. And y is 0. But what is negative 0 the same as?
0.
0. So x equals 0. Okay?
So if y is 0,
All right.
then you
All right, now,
want your 0, comma
okay, so we get this. So my x-intercept is what? 0. As an ordered pair, what is it?
0, comma 0, your origin.
0, 0, which is the origin. Good. To find the y-intercept, you're going to let
X
x equals 0. All right, so notice what happens. I get x is 0, right? So wherever c and x, what do I plug in?
0.
0. So 0 equals a negative y, correct? But I have to get what by itself? Y. But remember, negative y, isn't that the same thing as saying negative 1 times y?
Mm-hmm.
And to get y by itself, you divide both sides by
Negative 1.
negative 1.
0 divided by
So,
It's still-
so -1, if you look at this right here, -1 divided by -1 is 1. 1 times y is y. And what's 0 divided by -1?
Zero.
0. So my y-intercept is also what?
Zero.
0. As an ordered pair, what is it?
Non-zero.
Okay. Now remember, in the ones we just did, I was able to graph. Because there were 2 points. And remember, to graph a line, how many points do you need?
Two.
2. One was the x-intercept, the other one was the y-intercept. And I was able to graph those 2 points and draw the line. Same thing here. I have an x-intercept and a y-intercept that's different. So I'm able to graph. Over here, I have a y-intercept and x-intercept that's different. So I'm able to graph. What do you notice about these right here?
You just have a single point.
The x and y-intercepts are the same point. So when I look at this, I just have this, right?
That's it.
And it is an x and a y-intercept because it crosses the x-axis, also crosses the what? The y-axis as well. So the origin is both the x and the y-intercept. But to graph a line, how many points do you need?
2.
2. So the directions will say this as well. It'll say graph using intercepts. And then, actually that's, okay. And then, graph using intercepts. If I can quickly get to it. All right. So say graph using intercepts by plotting its intercepts, and then it'll say use a graphing tool. Number one, when you graph this, when you get to it, there's going to be a graphing tool. You can move the lines about, right? Use the intercepts when drawing the line. If only one intercept exists, then use it and another point to draw the line. So does one intercept exist? So what you can do is just kind of find another point. So kind of like a t-table. Can't find the pen. So just use the t-table. You just need one more point, right? So give me a number for x.
3.
So if x is 3, wherever you see an x, what do you plug in?
3.
3. So y'all agree I get 3 equals -y?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So 3 equals -1y, right?
Mm-hmm.
How to get y by itself?
5 outside by -1.
So what is another point?
-3.
Y'all agree -3 is y?
Mhm.
So you get 3, -3, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so 3, -3. So there's the other point, and then you draw your line. So there is one in my math lab where the x and y intercepts are the same.
You know why that
To
is.
graph a line, you need how many points?
2.
2. So just use a t-table.
And it's still passing through the same x and y intercept, so,
Yeah, because that was one of your points.
right.
All right, so any question on what to do when you get to that problem? Okay, so you're going to just use a t-table, let x be some number, and then solve for y. You could have used, let's say, 1 if you wanted to. If x is 1, you would say 1 equals what? -1y, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how to get y by itself?
5 outside by -1.
And -1 divided by -1 is a 1. 1 times y is y. And what's 1 divided by -1?
-1.
So y is -1. So when I plot 1, -1, that's this right here. You see it? So it also lies in the same line. Any question 34? All right, so when you look at the worksheet, so it says graph each line by finding x and y intercepts. Label these 2 points. So remember, labeling doesn't mean just plotting the point. Labeling, let me go back to this. Labeling means this, right? All right, 0, 4, -4, 0. You understand what labeling means? Okay, so follow directions. And then state the order. say the intercepts in order pair. So basically, you're not going to say -8. You're going to say what?
-8,
-8, 0. You're not going to say 4. You're going to say what?
0,
0,4. Okay. So you can do this. That's just find the x and y intercepts. Let x be 0. Let y be 0. Same thing here. Same thing here. Same thing here. All right. So it's fairly easy. You're just graphing using the intercepts. Any questions on that part? All right. That was all 3.3. So it was just one worksheet in 3.3. Now last semester you did a few more things with it. But remember, just kind of reviewing a couple of things here. All right. Okay, so that was 3.3. All right. So let me go ahead and give this to you.